Nothing to it. Back in the early days when we were just open for business, one of my first, what I'm going to call aha experiences, especially about elevating my customers, elevating my customer experience, was when I got a call from Faith Hill and her producer, Scott Hendricks, announcing that they had chosen Dark Horse Recording for her next album. It was her It Matters to Me album, which, by the way, has sold over 4 million copies. Well, as you can imagine, I was thrilled, especially back then, and I'd be willing to bet that if Faith Hill was coming to your house every day for 5 weeks, you'd be inspired to keep her happy, especially the guys. And for good reason, because Faith will tell you a lot more goes into making a hit record than meets the eye. For instance, for every day that she would sing vocals, her producer, Scott, would edit those very best vocal performances together. And I'm not sure if you're aware of this or not, but any song you've heard that's been recorded in the last 30 years or so, what you're really hearing is a compilation of hundreds, if not thousands, of vocal takes. And even when and Faith is a great singer, but even if it's Mariah Carey, even if it's some of the best singers out there, they will comp their vocals together in order to raise the level of their performance just even a few percent. And that's how records are made. And luckily, that's what keeps people at the studio. Well, it was on one of those days, it was on a Saturday. Faith was not even at the studio, but Scott was editing her vocal performances together. And I decided to fix Scott one of my almost famous Robin Crow Deli sandwiches. I wish you could taste one. Fresh baked bread, 4 different kinds of lunch meats, Swiss and cheddar cheese, red ripe tomatoes. But more importantly, I wish you could have heard Scott's compliments all afternoon. I'm not kidding. It's like this guy doesn't talk much, and all of a sudden, every hour, hey, Robin, that sandwich was awesome. We need to do that again. Or thank you so much. And he just kept showing all this appreciation. And I started thinking, my gosh, he's been at the studio for 7 days, and he hasn't said one thing, one way or the other, about how he likes the studio, whether he likes the way it sounds or the microphone collection. But he couldn't stop talking about this sandwich. So that night, I stocked the studio refrigerator with all the ingredients you could possibly want to make any kind of deli sandwich imaginable. And every day moving forward, Faith and Scott and I would eat them right in this little shaded picnic area right outside the studio. And this went on for about a month. And this is back in the early days when we had one person on staff. It was me. So I was the cook, I was the cleaner, I was the yard man. And then they came to me one day and they said, Robin, we're running about 2 weeks behind schedule, and we were wondering if you could give us 2 more weeks of studio time. And this was my answer. I said, well, it just so happens I've got exactly 2 weeks of studio time available before Neil Diamond comes in for the rest of the summer, but I've decided to raise my rates by $75 a day. And I know it's the middle of your stay, but nonetheless, for the last 2 weeks, would you have any problem with this price increase? And before Scott could even comment, Faith chimed in and said, well, I don't have a problem with that, Robin. The sandwiches alone are worth it. And right then and there, I realized 2 things that would shape the future of Dark Horse Recording. All this time, I had been thinking that I was in the business of high-tech recording equipment, like perfectly calibrated flying fader systems, acoustically correct listening environments, quiet grounding systems. When in reality, I'm in the business of serving people. Now let's just think about this for a second. Doesn't that put all of us in the same business? We want to elevate our customer experience. We want to give them such great experiences that they're going to return year after year after year. Since that time, I fixed carrot juice for Winona Judd, hamburgers for Amy Grant, barbecue chicken for Michael McDonald, and shish kebabs for Neil Diamond. And now I know you're probably saying, well, Robin, anybody can fix food for famous people. That's not that creative. And you would be right. But I will tell you, over the last 25 years, we have come up with dozens and dozens and dozens of different things to exceed the expectations of our customers the best that we can.